Hi there everyone, this is K.Ilistration from Puffing Fish Productions. Doing a bit of a different video today. So we're still doing I've got a speed paint here of sorts that I thought I would go through as a form of creative process as it's being worked on screen. So this artwork in question was merely just to be an exercise. I was just going to do sketching and practice a bit more perspective, which is what's shown here, but ultimately I ended up completing the artwork, and here you will be able to see it today. So I hope you enjoy looking at it, and I will make some notes during the video as to processes that were done in place when creating this. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy watching. What also could be done in this situation is just doing a sketch before making it a bit more thorough like this, but I'm just mapping out what I'm doing here, and not necessarily is this going to be the final places where the vents and the doors and the wheels and whatnot are going to be. So it kind of looks like you could finish it off like this, but there's a lot I can still change, and I attempt to do to figure out to make the car look straight and not to bow too much. I also tried to map out a little bit of where the shadow would cast for the vehicle itself, and just a rough idea that there would be a bit of a background, just to remind me that I can also draw in a backdrop, because the car would be on like a highway road of sorts, which is, in this situation, it's a straight road. And then here I am trying to use just the regular black pencil of my choice to map in the final details and how it would sit on the final lineup. So I start off with the headlights here because they're kind of fun to do, and I know that they are a little bit fiddly to get right to make them look like they're front facing. And I try to tidy up the lines here so that I can make the car actually fit the shape of what's going on here, and try to make it so that you see more of the front and less of the back, and hopefully get the right sort of proportion. Because it's a liner, you also get to play around with the fun bits of the car a bit more, so fixing where there'd be vents and where there'd be little notches and whatnot that the car would have. I'd be drawing them in now to kind of better illustrate where they are, something that you wouldn't necessarily do on the sketch. I think that's always hard to remember, but a good piece of advice for anyone watching is try not to be too precious with the sketch. It's a thing I'll fall for sometimes, but usually the time that you're spending now on the liner is where you get to clean it up and do the fun stuff. So it all depends on your style of drawing really, but that's another fun fact, is that you don't have to commit everything to the first sketch. You can always go and make another liner afterwards and do just that. Next thing I do here is try to fix the side panels of the car and fix up the wheels and the rims, because they are probably the hands when it comes to cars. They're a bit tricky to line up correctly, but because of the shapes we would have done prior, we would have figured out where the how big the wheel arches are, and just putting in the actual like the column where the axles would be, so you know how to line up the wheels. But then you also would put just extra lines across to make them kind of match parallel to the angle of the drawing, which is always a bit tricky to do. And I think I've managed to do a slightly better job this time round. And with each drawing, I get a little bit better at it. There's always more you can improve on, but it's nonetheless it's an important thing to practice on. And then I start working on the front window panel here, trying to make it, I guess, fit the lines, which one will be the correct line to take, and not make it too pointy and flat, but not make it too round that it makes the car bow, which is a bit of an issue. But with a little bit of trial and error and working it in, you can kind of make it at least somewhat to your intention. And just fixing up the lights a bit more. Again, just more fine-tuning to literally make the car look better, and just all in all, you know, get slightly better at it each time. With the line art close to completion, I'm just doing a bit more cleaning up, and again trying to fix the headlights to match the angle of the car. I added in a couple lines on the window as like a means to remind me to shade them, but I won't necessarily keep those lines there. I probably could have done them on a separate layer, but again, it'll still achieve the same process. As long as you rub those out and do your colouring on a different layer, it should be good. And again, just fixing up some more lines here, because they'd be different. You know, you'd have the quarter panels and the actual car door and the side panels or side skirts for a specific car. And this one having a little bit of a kit to it means that it's gonna have little sharp grooves in it. And again, just some more tidying up. There's a lot of working in that you would do. Very to the style of Bob Ross. Again, I wasn't completely sure on what I was doing with the lights here. I mean, like, I'd have to keep going back and changing it, because I'd take another look at it from a distance, and I just kept working at it. So even if it doesn't look right to you the first time around, this is definitely the situation where you can be a bit more precious with it and you know, do your tweaks from your sketch. So fixing up the front grille panel here, adding the extra details and being able to tidy it up a bit more and make the lights sit a bit better. And then again, adding some more details and cleaning it up. You keep continuously doing this in the line art stage until you're happy with it, basically. Next bit I move on to is just, you know, blocking out a solid colour behind the car, just so I can get a bit of an idea for where to begin with the initial car. And I was thinking for this R32 here to have a lighter colour palette rather than, you know, choosing dark colours, which is something I more traditionally do. So what I did here is I could, if I wanted to just keep it as a concept art, I could have left it all loosely coloured, but then I go to rub the base layer out to fit the part of the car, and then I can use the lock pixels afterwards and then just shade in what I need to do. And I found this to be a little bit easier than just painting over it over and over like I used to do. And doing the same things with things like the wheels and whatnot, which I don't want to be on the base of the car. There's definitely multiple ways I've tried of colouring in. This time around I chose to do it this way, just to make everything have its own separate flat layer, and then I can go in and use that method of locking pixels and painting and shading over it. I start to use that method that I just mentioned, where I'm able to do some light shading, adding some shadows and highlights to the car, making sure that the transparent pixels are locked so that it doesn't go out of the little base we've just made. And then if you don't like the exact shade of the colour, you can always tweak it with some filters afterwards, or follow up with another painting with another base layer over it. So here what I'm doing is just painting in the windows and adding a little bit of shading, because I have the brush on a lower opacity to get a bit of the darker parts of the rear of the window and the front of the window having a bit more of a light source, and also just fixing up the rear view mirror here because I felt that I could make it a bit larger. It didn't quite sit the way I liked it, and looking at my reference image I also noticed that my rear view mirror was definitely smaller than it should be. So I had the opportunity to fix this now before I get too into it, and it being a separate layer to what we've just painted with means that I can, edit it on the fly, and I can go back and still make adjustments even in this late stage. Okay, finally adding some more details to things like the front of the car, where you'd have some more shadows inside the canards and the grille and whatnot. Just being able to add those in now, because we still want to keep the overall look of the car as a white or even an off-white car, but having the color palette kind of match how it would look if it's darker. There'd be maybe like a light grey, or I use like a light grey blue for my particular color palette choice with this piece. and then being able to color in the headlights now and add a bit of more shine to it, which I'll do in a moment, just adding a little bit more lighter colors over the lights there. In some other drawings in the past, what I do is get another layer as well and add some extra adjustments to the lights so it looks like they're turned on and they're shining. I don't necessarily end up doing that with this piece because the lights are off and it's daytime, but ideally I could also, if I wanted to, add like another layer over the top of it, and then you could use either like a screen layer or a linear dodge or one of the other layers like that to make it look really bright and kind of shining into the camera if that's what you wanted the focus of the piece to be. So that's another suggestion there. I'm also trying to add shading to the rims of the car and overall just tidying it up a bit, making it look a little bit more consistent. Still a challenge trying to match them up, of course, but again, it gets a little bit better with each piece. Just playing around with some more adjustment layers now here, where instead of having them normal, I can change them to look either lighter or darker to match the match the windows, to make them have a little bit more of a shine to them and make them look a bit different and stand out. I did do a lot of experimenting here, a lot of trial and error, not sure which filter I want to use and whatnot. Again, it's a lot of testing, because even if you know that screen layers or linear dodges are good, sometimes even using another layer style will surprise you. Again, I go back to the line art layer and I do a bit more cleaning up just to get rid of those extra lines that I had mapped there before, and I've removed them so that I could add in these little shines that are on the window. Which, again, you'd have to look up reference and see how you would like the shine to go on the window, if you want it to be really obvious and cartoony, or do you want like a more subtle type of lighting. It depends on what you're trying to do with the piece. Overall with this drawing, I feel that I was going a bit more for a conceptual look, using different types of pencil brushes and not making it look hyper realistic, but still having a good amount of elements of what the real car would have. But yeah, ultimately I wanted to go more for a conceptual look. With a bit more playing around with layer styles and different brushes here, I start to make what is meant to be some form of mountain road, because the backdrop I had in mind was a long straight road, but still more of a mountainous area, probably heading to the top of a mountain pass, but not quite on the mountain yet. And again, just adding a bit more shading to make the ground look not perfect, to make it look like it has a little bit of dust, a little bit of dirt, a bit of texture. Still playing around a lot more with background design, and there's definitely more I could learn, but it's definitely a thing I can suggest is to definitely add little blemishes and stuff. Don't make it look perfect, because if you're out in real life and you look at a road of a car, it's not going to be perfectly clean. It's going to have your blemishes or your tire marks or just little scratches and dust on the road. And then I start to do more of the background, which is adding some shrubbery or just some large trees, whatever you prefer. Overall, some foliage, and just working it in. I've had a lot of inspiration from watching Bob Ross paintings, how he does the shrubbery. So I just grab a really loose brush and I just slowly work it in and just see what I like. There's no specific foliage pattern I'm looking for. Just something really rough and almost fluffy like. But just going over it as many times as I need to work it in to make it look really kind of inconsistent, because you don't want every tree or every bit of foliage to look the same. And then I add in a bit of a nice blue sky, and I play around with the shading of the blue and the clouds, but I think the shading I did here was a little bit more cartoony looking, but there's many ways to go about it. So I just kind of layer it in until I'm happy with it, and then I draw some clouds over it. And then we are getting close to done with the painting how it's looking. Then here I try to use some photo filters just to fully tie up the piece, just to make just that little bit of extra effort you can put in to really improve it, is to go through the photo filters. And looking at the color palette of choice I had, I was going a bit more for that bluey grey, using a grey that's come from the blue, and then so with that I wanted to apply a photo filter that also uses the same kind of blue, and trying to tie it all together with that so that the whole piece feels like it's all one thing. The background, again, still could probably be improved on, but ideally with what I had made here in mind, feels like the car is still the subject of the painting, and you will focus more on that rather than making the background too detailed and then you're trying to find everything. There we have the final piece. This is a GTR R32, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this little experiment of mine. I love doing speed paints, but I wanted to try and throw a bit more of a tutorial aspect to this. I am an artist by trade, and if you would like to support me, please check out any of the social media or links below the video, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you some other time.